The Evidence in the Case of Smith vs. Jones, by Mark Twain. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Greg Marguerite. The Evidence in the Case of Smith vs. Jones, by Mark Twain. I reported this trial simply for my own amusement, one idle day last week, and without expecting to publish any portion of it. But I have seen the facts in the case so distorted and misrepresented in the daily papers that I feel it is my duty to come forward and do what I can to set the plaintiff and defendant right before the public. This can best be done by submitting the plain, unembellished statements of the witnesses as given under oath before His Honor Judge Shepard in the police court, and leaving the people to form their own judgment of the matters involved, unbiased by argument or suggestion of any kind from me. There is that nice sense of justice and that ability to discriminate between right and wrong among the masses which will enable them, after carefully reading the testimony I am about to set down here, to decide without hesitation which is the innocent party and which is the guilty in the remarkable case of Smith vs. Jones. And I have every confidence that before this paper shall have been out of the printing press 24 hours, the High Court of the People, from whose decision there is no appeal, will have swept from the innocent man all taint of blame or suspicion, and cast upon the guilty one a deathless infamy. To such as are not used to visiting the police court, I will observe that there is nothing inviting about the place, there being no rich carpets, no mirrors, no pictures, no elegant sofa or armchairs to lounge in, no free lunch, and in fact nothing to make a man who has been there once desire to go again, except in cases where his bail is heavier than his fine is likely to be, under which circumstances he naturally has a tendency in that direction again, of course, in order to recover the difference. There is a pulpit at the head of the hall, occupied by a handsome gray-haired judge, with a faculty of appearing pleasant and impartial to the disinterested spectator, and prejudiced and frosty to the last degree to the prisoner at the bar. To the left of the pulpit is a long table for reporters. In front of the pulpit the clerks are stationed, and in the center of the hall a nest of lawyers. On the left again are pine benches behind a railing, occupied by seedy white men, negroes, Chinamen, Kanakas, in a word, by the seedy and dejected of all nations, and in a corner is a box where more can be had when they are wanted. On the right are more pine benches for the use of prisoners and their friends and witnesses. An officer in a gray uniform and with a star upon his breast guards the door. A holy calm pervades the scene. The case of Smith vs. Jones being called, each of these parties, stepping out from among the other seedy ones, gave the court a particular and circumstantial account of how the whole thing occurred, and then sat down. The two narratives differed from each other. In reality, I was half persuaded that these men were talking about two separate and distinct affairs altogether, inasmuch as no single circumstance mentioned by one was even remotely hinted at by the other. Mr. Alfred Sowerby was then called to the witness stand, and testified as follows: "I was in the saloon at the time, your Honor, and I see this man Smith come up all of a sudden to Jones, who warn't saying a word, and split him in the snoot." Lawyer: "Did what, sir?" Witness: "Busted him in the snoot." Lawyer: "What do you mean by such language as that? When you say that the plaintiff suddenly approached the defendant, who was silent at the time, and busted him in the snoot, do you mean that the plaintiff struck the defendant?" Witness: "That's me. I'm swearing to that very circumstance. Yes, your Honor, that was just the way of it. Now, for instance, as if you was Jones and I was Smith. Well, I comes up all of a sudden, and says I to your Honor, says I, 'Damn your old tripe.'" Suppressed laughter in the lobbies. The Court: "Order in the court. Witness: You will confine yourself to a plain statement of the facts in this case, and refrain from the embellishments of metaphor and allegory as far as possible." Witness, considerably subdued: "I beg your Honor's pardon. I didn't mean to be so brash. Well, Smith comes up to Jones all of a sudden and mashed him in the bugle." Lawyer: "Stop. This kind of language will not do. I will ask you a plain question, and I require you to answer it simply yes or no. Did the plaintiff strike the defendant? Did he strike him? Witness: You bet your sweet life he did. Gad, he gave him a pastor in the trumpet. Lawyer: Take the witness, take the witness, take the witness. I have no further use for him. The lawyer on the other side said he would endeavor to worry along without more assistance from Mr. Sowerby, and the witness retired to a neighboring bench. Mr. McWilliams was next called, and deposed as follows: I was a standin' as close to Mr. Smith as I am to this pulpit, a chaffin' with one of the lager beer girls, Sophronia by name, being from Summers in Germany, so she says. But as to that, Lawyer: Well, now, never mind the nativity of the lager beer girl, but state as concisely as possible what you know of the assault and battery. Witness: Certainly, certainly. Well, German or no German, which I'll take my oath I don't believe she is, being of a red-headed disposition, with long bony fingers, and no more hankerin' after Limburger cheese than— Lawyer: Stop that driveling nonsense, and stick to the assault and battery. Go on with your story. Witness: Well, sir, she, that is, Jones, he sidled up and drawed his revolver and tried to shoot the top of Smith's head off, and Smith run, and Sophronia, she walloped herself down in the sawdust and screamed twice, just as loud as she could yell. I never see a poor creature in such distress, and then she sung out, "Oh, hell's fire! What are they up to now? Ah, my poor dear mother, I shall never see you more!" Saying which, she jerked another yell and fainted away as dead as a wax figure. Thinks I to myself, I'll be danged if this ain't getting rather dusty, and I'll— The Court: We have no desire to know what you thought. We only wish to know what you saw. Are you sure Mr. Jones endeavored to shoot the top of Mr. Smith's head off? Witness: Yes, your Honor. The Court: How many times did he shoot? Witness: Well, sir, I couldn't say exactly as to the number, but I should think, well, 7 or 8 times, as many as that, anyway. The Court: Be careful now, and remember you are under oath. What kind of a pistol was it? Witness: It was a Derringer, your Honor. The Court: A Derringer? You must not trifle here, sir. A Derringer only shoots once. How then could Jones have fired 7 or 8 times? The witness is evidently as stunned by that last proposition as if a brick had struck him. Witness: Well, your Honor, that is, Jones, I mean, Soph— The Court: Are you sure he fired more than one shot? Are you sure he fired at all? Witness: Well, perhaps he didn't, and your Honor may be right. But, you see, that girl with her dratted yowling— altogether, it might be that he did only shoot once. Lawyer: And about his attempting to shoot the top of Smith's head off, didn't he aim at his body or his legs? Come, now. Witness, entirely confused: Yes, sir, I think he did. I'm pretty sure, certain of it. Yes, sir, he must have fired at his legs. Nothing was elicited on the cross-examination, except that the weapon used by Mr. Jones was a bowie knife instead of a Derringer, and that he made a number of desperate attempts to scalp the plaintiff instead of trying to shoot him. It also came out that Sophronia, of doubtful nativity, did not faint, and was not present during the affray, she having been discharged from her situation on the previous evening. Washington Billings, sworn, said: I seen the row, and it warn't in no saloon, it was in the street. Both of 'em was drunk, and one of 'em was coming up the street, and the other was going down. Both of 'em was close to the houses when they first see each other, and both of 'em made their calculations to miss each other. But the second time they tacked across the pavement, driftin' like, diagonal, they come together down by the curb, almighty soggy, they did, which staggered 'em a moment, and then over they went into the gutter. Smith was up first, and he made a dive for a cobble and fell on Jones. Jones dug out and made a dive for a cobble and slipped his hold and jammed his head into Smith's stomach. They done that over again twice more, just the same way. After that neither of 'em could get up any more, and so they just laid there in the slush and clawed mud and cussed each other. On the cross examination the witness could not say whether the parties continued the fight afterward in the saloon or not. He only knew they began it in the gut.